You're watching Public Comment every Thursdays at 8 a.m. The live stream. Detroit is different in Bridge Detroit. Local politics of Detroit. Welcome back to another episode of Public Comment, where we cover a whole lot of what's happening with Detroit municipal politics throughout the city council. Really a lot based on the great notebook from Malachi. Malachi, how you doing today?
Good morning. I'm doing good. Good to be back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And this was a very eventful city council meeting, as I was actually in effect for a moment there with DeMaurier, getting some photos and everything. Many people actually had what our name is, like 140 public comments. But really, one of the big matters at hand was Detroit's new Police Body Camera Ordinance. Detroit City Council voted 8-1 to require DPD to release body camera footage within 30 days when officers fire weapons or cause serious harm. Introduced by Councilmember Angela Whitfield Calloway. Following this year work, the ordinance aims to increase transparency and accountability, though it includes exceptions to protect criminal investigations. Whitfield Calloway says this document is not perfect. It's going to continue to be amended like other ordinances, and it's a start. The criticism and community concerns, like many loopholes as far as the delay or prevent release when footage involves federal or state task forces. Wayne County prosecutor requests a delay pending charges. Footage could affect a civil case or violate the FOIA Act. Edited or compilation videos can be released, raising fears of narrative control by police. So different voices that you had, definitely Victoria Camille, who has been on Detroit is Different, friend of community and everything, and the police transparency association or group. DPD should not get the privilege to see or shape the narrative. Gabriela Santiago Romero said the only no vote because it lacks agreement with all the community. You were there for this. This is definitely at the tone and time. A lot of people paying attention. What was the feel during this vote, and what was the community response when you were there, Malachi?
Yeah, so there was more discussion about this actually Monday during the public hearing that was held in the Public Health and Safety Committee. Mm-hmm. There was so much activity yesterday around the secondary street sign naming, where the council basically picks 5 people a year to be honored with one of those blue street signs you've probably seen around town. A lot of folks came down to speak on that. So the council was kind of moving quickly through a lot of its agenda. There was some conversation about bringing DPD in to kind of answer some questions, but they ended up taking a vote without too much discussion on Tuesday. But anyway, so a lot of the bulk of this happened on Monday, where, we really heard, I think, a sincere effort from Councilmember Calloway to get something on the books that would create a requirement for police to release body cam footage, which currently is not required, although DPD says that they do release footage even within 30 days after a police shooting. In my recollection, I didn't go back and really look through the record here on this, but in my recollection, footage is not always released, and I don't think it happens within 30 days either. So, from the standpoint of having these rules on the books, this is a starting point, as she said. She made a lot of comparisons to the Constitution, saying, look, we have in this country living documents that can be amended over time, and we can put this in place for a while and then come back to the table. I think there was some pressure to get this done because the council has a lot of important decisions to make in November. They only have, I think, 2 or 3 more meetings left in the year before they're done. Mm-hmm. And basically anything that's left undone, kind of like lame duck in the legislature, there's really no guarantee that it will come back or even pass in the new year with a new council. Initiatives like this kind of have to start back over. You have to get your members informed on what's in it. So that wasn't specifically spoken to, but I think that might have been part of it as well in terms of the pressure around like getting something out now versus later. The Coalition for Police Accountability and Transparency has, it's a group of residents that kind of came together, I think, within the last year. At least that's when I became more aware of them, pushing for more transparency and accountability for police through ordinances like this. There's a couple other initiatives I think that they're getting behind, but this is one of the main ones that they've been communicating on. And they had a real issue with the 30-day time frame and some other exceptions that are written into the law. They had envisioned within 7 days instead of 30. So just on that alone, they felt like that was too much time. But also there's, you mentioned a few of them, there's situations where the police can basically delay or block the release of footage. They can release video compilations instead of raw unedited footage. The county prosecutor can hold back footage altogether if it interferes with an investigation. And so there's a number of things there where they felt like this just basically, isn't even a good way to get this footage in front of the public. And so they pulled out their support there. And I tried to talk to Callaway after the meeting yesterday and get a sense of like, how was it difficult to balance these concerns? She had to meet with the police chief, Todd Bettison, and the county prosecutor, Kim Worthy, both of whom were on board with what was, passed yesterday. But she mentioned some tense conversations that she had with them as they navigated, again, like the balance of creating transparency while also not compromising police investigations or like catering to some of the concerns, I guess, that the police had. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to talk with her about that. She had to run pretty quickly after the meeting. So I guess I'm interested to see, how does this work, in the short term, and then long term, is there any runway to make adjustments to this?
And what that looks like. Victoria Camille, that sits on that transparency group, came to Detroit is Different, and this is actually on our other account, just due to where things are, the Rumble account, where we have we have a lot more freedom to do what we do in video. As Lord knows, it's been a very interesting time for Detroit is Different over the past 2 months when it comes to interacting with a lot of these platforms and getting things out. With that being said, the Sherman Lee Butler murder that was within the county bailiffs over an eviction notice. That was something that was shared. We went through the video, we shared it. They're using that, and they were like, okay, we really want to make sure we get this out. The edited video is definitely something. And then if it goes into state or federal investigations and what could slow things down, I believe that Callaway's scope and perspective is like, okay, this gets something on the books, period, because right now nothing is on the books, and we can start move forward from there. What the changes would be, I do believe ordinances in the city are, they're amended a lot. So I guess we would just have to like monitor what moving forward. And I guess, as you say, the new council, when it gets into this new session, they will be informed on this. And I will hope that the momentum can look to build something that a lot of the advocates that are in this space can be more supportive of. I know Victoria is running for police commission right now, and it's a slate full, kind of connected to the transparency group that are looking, transparency and accountability group that are looking to make those seats in the board of police commissions. This is also like high in people's minds, as the press conference from Police Chief Bettison of the officer just days ago, this past weekend, officer fired 6 shots to a woman in a traffic stop on Detroit's east side. And this is one of those things where, everybody's wondering like, okay, what's going on? Who is this officer? What's happening? We still kind of don't know who the officer is. It's like, I guess the internal investigation is going on. I'm sure that this will be a topic at one of the police commission meetings soon, but this is, where like, okay, if that transparency were there and something on that books and something that community can see, now it's like, okay, let's move to seeing what this looks like and how the decisions will be made as far as what's investigated, what's not investigated. I'm sure more details will come to life as this is executed, and seeing how that it works with community and with the people. There are also just so many other questions about just video camera alone. It was a big victory. We didn't even speak to this in public comment, but I'm sure like in the year-end wrap, we may go more into it. But the Trade Justice Center looked at a lot of what's happening with, shot spotter, and more so like a lot of the video.
The city basically, they basically violated their oversight ordinance in approving that contract, which I think, you can see some of the concern people would have about enforceability of body cam release when, the city has another oversight law around disclosure of information about how surveillance technology works. People have a right to a lot of information about how ShotSpotter functions, how different like surveillance tools function before the city starts public discussions on it. That didn't happen. So yeah, so I mean, we already have a law in the book that is not kind of being followed. I think that, plays into some of the concern. That contract, it's not clear what's going to happen to it. The Court of Appeals ruled, we wrote about this a couple weeks ago, that there was a lawsuit filed by the Detroit Justice Center saying, hey, you guys didn't follow your process. These contracts should be voided. The attorney, or I'm sorry, the judge in this local court basically said the city more or less followed its ordinances, but it's not that big of a deal if it doesn't anyway, which people didn't like. And then the Court of Appeals ruled in favor of the people who filed the lawsuit. So anyway, long story short, we don't know what the decision of like what happens because of that was put back to the lower court. So we're going to hear about whether this will be voided or not. I kind of don't expect those contracts to be voided, but that's that. I guess I should probably bring up to some of the alternatives that were presented by this coalition, which had never met with Whitfield Callaway, and they were actually pretty upset about that. They had been trying to meet with her, trying to advocate on this for a while. They felt pretty shut out, and they basically called what was passed yesterday pretty meaningless, I think, in the release here that they sent out. But anyway, one of the issues that they had was what incidents qualify. So under the ordinance, anytime a officer shoots their firearm in a way that either hits somebody or potentially could hit someone, that triggers the release of body cam footage. If an officer uses a non-lethal weapon that strikes someone and results in death or great bodily harm, which is basically like a serious injury, that triggers the ordinance. And then when use of force triggers causes death or great bodily harm, that also triggers the release of body cam footage. Advocates felt like that didn't go far enough. They wanted to see body cam footage when there was any kind of physical strike of an instrument with a person. Anytime significant physical contact restricts the movement of a person, any discharge of a non-lethal weapon, so any discharge of like a taser, these new bowler wraps that we have, pepper balls, water cannons, on and on. Anytime an officer uses a chokehold or a hard hand technique to restrain someone, or take someone to the ground, anytime a canine is deployed, and all police chases. So it's a lot broader in terms of the incidents that are being captured.
Released,
Yep. And one other thing I just want to bring up is that when DPD is involved in operations with federal and state partners, if the feds or the state don't want that footage to come out, they can also
they can overrule. And that was one of those things, and a lot of those that are uplifted, those definitely seem to be things that the community would be in support of seeing what's happening. I definitely know I would. It's been a lot of questions about the police relationship with community of recent. So that's definitely going to come into question.
As like a quick example, right? A couple months ago, there was ICE raid in Southwest Detroit. A group of protesters came and tried to disrupt what the agents were doing, and so DPD was called to corral the protesters, basically. And in the process of that, pepper spray was deployed by DPD. Some of the people were pepper sprayed. I was like, when we talk about this stuff, it's hard not to slip into like terminology like that, like police deployed. A guy got pepper sprayed, right? this ordinance, the way it's written, might block release of that footage.
And that really matters, because it's also said that at the time the executive administration or Mayor Duggan said we're not going to assist in any of these ICE raids, and you would assume that act is assisting. They were saying that we're just going to observe and quote unquote protect our residents in the act of this, which that that didn't play out. That definitely didn't play out. I remember we spoke on that in public comment. And these are still just like questions about like what's the city's role with things like this, especially any of the other state investigations. I even know another state investigation of the brother that helped build the Kwanzaa Kanar, and the release of what footage does exist, like just a lot of what was uplifted, the public. It's a lot of distrust towards police and some of these executive systems. That's going to stand tall. I don't know if you want to add more to the whole context of like what you see moving forward, but I definitely would be interested what that coalition, especially I think after, and I'm confident that some of them will make it to that board of police commissioners, what will happen there. And then also even like that relationship of the board of police commissioners to get access to stuff like this. I think that it was questions in reference to that as well.
Yeah, I guess there maybe would be three things I would kind of flag as like ways this could be changed. And one of them would be, like we were just talking about, expansion of the kinds of incidents that qualify under this. So instead of just when a police shoots at someone or hurts somebody really bad, maybe some of the types of incidents that we just listed, as well as speed up the time frame of release, 30 days to 7. I don't know how possible that is going to be.
But the ability, also it could be extended too. I remember it was something that could delay even further.
That's what I was going to say.
The Sherman Lee Butler case that did exist.
Yeah, like the ability of the prosecutor to indefinitely hold footage that might like compromise an investigation seems like really that can apply to a lot of situations. And then police being able to get delays. Every time I put in an information request with the city, it's getting delayed. So I think that's a major concern for people, like speeding up the release of the footage. And then the third thing would be connecting it to other oversight routes in the city, like the board of police commissioners, which isn't mentioned in this ordinance and doesn't really have anything to do with the release of body cam footage. Although they would review footage that gets released like everybody else, but there's really nothing in here that gives them any kind of like say in the process of body cam footage release. So, and in the meantime, as Victoria mentioned, like multiple people have been shot by officers in the last month. There's a pretty egregious case that DPD won't be. Chief Edison basically wants to suspend the officer that was involved, if I understand correctly. And so, I guess in absence of any rule, anything on the books, this is a step, forward in codifying rules. It just doesn't seem to go far enough for some people. But it's hard to say, how broad some of those feelings are. That this is kind of one coalition that's been doing a lot of the
organizing around it, though. But definitely the coalition has been doing a lot of organizing. So we'll keep up with this. And also, I guess, in more of a lot of the public comment news, honoring a lot of Detroit heroes, 5 street names, as you say, like the blue signs, like under the streets that are known. I was in council yesterday for my late great godmother, the council member Joanne Watson, Reverend, our pastor Joanne Watson, with one of those streets right here in this neighborhood. That's definitely where she went to school, Central High School, the Trailblazers, Linwood and Tuxedo, but also Kim, Greg Mudge from Mudgy's Deli, Viola Louis, I'm gonna keep butcher this, Louiso, and also the imam, which is like right over here at the Muslim Center. Definitely someone connected in community, President Pro Tem Tate said all of these names are definitely deserving of a street name. It's been a lot of organizing around different street names, so this is good to see like so many of the public comments, and I believe that everything kind of went through swimmingly with those 5. There will be more. I mean, every year this is like tis the season for that.
I think there were 23 people that were nominated this year, so 5 of them get picked every year, and I think around 15 might be the limit of like new applicants. But they've got a really long list, and a lot of people that have been on that list like year after year. Like Greg Mudge, I think had been on the list for a couple of years before they approved him. So they actually talked about maybe revising the process of how this gets done to maybe tighten the restrictions a little bit so that they don't have to choose from so many people. And but it was really cool to see like all the folks that came down and advocated for their, people that they're related to or friends with or were inspired by over the years. And I just think that like I always kind of underestimate how important it is for people to get recognized by the city council.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a big deal.
The street name thing is big. I know, like I say, Mama Watson was putting up a lot of street names. I mean, Reparations Ray, that you only gonna see that because of her, and so many others. Kwame Yatta, Harold McKinney, like these are just the ones top of mind. But these celebrations definitely in community. I'm looking forward to what's gonna happen when that street name's unveiled down the street over at Central High School, right here in the footprint. But that is public comment for today. Also, it was a lot in zoning, so make sure you read the notebook that Malachi has connected to Bridge Detroit. And speaking of Bridge Detroit, and this combination between Detroit is different. You just sat down another Detroit Next episode with mayoral candidate Solomon Kinlock. It was a more in-depth conversation about where things are, what he sees moving forward in community, and where politics lie, and from like the outside coming in. So I urge you all to check that out too. But keep tuning in to Detroit is Different. Malachi, tell the people what's up.
bridgedetroit.com is where you can find all of our stuff. It's all free for you, no paywalls anywhere on the site. This conversation is kind of based around the reporting that I do on Tuesday at the city council. I ride the bus down there every week and hang out with the people in the back and put together an email newsletter that goes out Wednesday mornings. So there's always a lot of extra detail in there, things that we're not able to get to in this conversation. Definitely check that out. It's, I don't know, I guess I try to say this without any ego. It's like really the only like city council reporting in the city right now. And yeah, we are getting close to election day. Go vote. I don't care who you vote for. Go vote. We've interviewed all of the candidates. There's a lot of city council interviews now that are up on our podcast platform on Spotify and on YouTube. And we've also interviewed the mayoral candidates a few times. We got Solomon Kinlock and Mary Sheffield in the chair in the last 2 weeks to kind of make their final pitch to voters. So if you watch the debate, that's cool. But watch these interviews because they're really, they're about 40 minutes long a piece. So it's like kind of the most information you're going to get, the most like in-depth kind of conversation you're going to get with candidates. So yeah, check all that stuff out. bridgedetroit.com, nonprofit news organization.
All day. Peace. You're watching Public Comment every Thursdays at 8 a.m. The live stream. Detroit is Different in Bridge Detroit. Local politics of Detroit.